Hey everyone, it's Harry from Appetit, and welcome to our very first YouTube video. I'll start off with a quick thank you on behalf of myself and Will, the other admin, for your incredible support on Instagram, because we wouldn't be here without it, bringing you content that hopefully you're going to enjoy. Now, we've got some cool ideas for content that we can bring you on YouTube as opposed to on Instagram, but also we'd love to hear your thoughts, so leave us a comment below if you have any ideas for stuff we could do. So without further ado, let me get started on our first ever video. One thing that I've always wanted to cook but never had the guts to before is fresh pasta. I've seen a lot of people do it on YouTube, most notably Bon Appetit videos, but I've never had the guts to do it myself, so I thought that could be a fun place to start the YouTube channel. Now, the wonderful Claire Saffitz recently released a home cooking video where she made 3 types of stuffed pasta from scratch. Now, if you do follow us on Instagram, then you might have seen my cook-alongs, and some of you might know that I'm not the best chef. I try quite hard, but it doesn't always come off. Claire, by her own admission, has said that pasta was something that had intimidated her in the past before, so I'm thinking if it intimidates Claire Saffitz, then I shouldn't feel so bad about being scared by it myself. Now, this recipe might start off a little bit differently to some other ones because the recipe isn't actually available online. For the most part, Bon Appetit are pretty good at putting recipes in their YouTube descriptions, but for this one I think it was maybe just Claire improvising at home a little bit more, and there isn't actually a written recipe. So what we're going to do is watch her video and try and get the ingredients list from there. Okay, so we watched Claire's video, and now it's time for my favourite part, reading the ingredients. 8 ounces of flour, 5 egg yolks, 2 whole eggs. For the filling, 1 pound of ricotta, 1 egg, red pepper flakes, parmesan, garlic powder, parsley, lemon zest, nutmeg and salt. Now, in true Harry style, I'm missing quite a few of these ingredients, so I'm going to go to the store, I'm going to see which ones they have, and I'll meet you back here in a few minutes. So here we have our ingredients. Just been to the store. Unfortunately, they didn't have any ricotta, so what I'm using instead is some mascarpone cheese. On the left for the pasta, we've got the flour and the eggs. On the right, we have the mascarpone, some parmesan, a lemon, chili flakes, nutmeg, parsley, and garlic. So with that, I think we're ready to start. So the first step I'm going to do is measure out 8 ounces of flour. I'm using an analog scale because I like them, they feel retro. Now for a slightly tricky part, you have to separate egg yolks and eggs, which I'm not that good at. So we're going to do 5 egg yolks and 2 whole eggs. Wish me luck. So when separating egg yolks and egg whites, it helps me to have just like a mug on the side or just something smaller that you can kind of crack it into. And then just let the white run into the smaller one, and then you kind of pass the yolk back and forth between the halves of the shell, and hopefully some of that excess white will just drip off every time until you're left with just a yolk. This one didn't all go to plan, unfortunately. We had some escaped yolk into the whites and also on my kitchen counter, which is always great. With that, it's about time to deposit our flour onto the work surface. This looks like a lot of egg yolk for not that much flour, but I trust Claire, so we're going to go with it. And then we're going to make a well in the ingredients. Just moving it out into a circle. Put some walls on the side, and then in go our eggs. Almost a breach. Then we're going to take a fork and then just making sure that we break up the egg yolks. Just giving this a whisk. Breach, 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 breach. I'm going to start whisking this in, hopefully, to combine with the flour. Make a wider well than I did. Pro tip number 1. So the well probably should have been more this shape when I started. I feel like I went way too narrow and tall with it. Hopefully you can learn from my mistakes. This is now getting towards a point where I'm almost going to start using my hands, just a few more scoops and mixes because there's some really wet patches in the middle. Okay, I think about here is when I'm going to start using my hands because there's no like really visible wet patches anymore. So now just using my hands to kind of bring the rest of this in. It's actually all kind of coming together quite nicely now. Maybe a bit too floury if anything. Might just move some of the excess flour away so I can knead space. So I've been kneading the dough for close to 10 minutes now. It's looking pretty good, I think. It's sort of tacky but not too sticky. See that? I think we're like almost there. There's quite a bit of flour left over on my counter, but I don't want to force it into the dough. So I think I'm just going to leave this as it is. So I've been kneading this for about 10 minutes and I think it's now at the level where it should be. It's kind of tacky but not sticky. And yeah, I'm kind of happy with it. There is some flour left over. That might be a bad sign, but I'm going to go with it. I'm going to wrap this in cling film and then leave it to rest for about 20 minutes. So while the pasta dough rests, what we're going to do is start making the filling. Unfortunately, as I said, my local store did not have any ricotta. So what I've got is mascarpone. It was kind of the closest thing that they had in terms of a cheese with quite a soft consistency and pretty mild flavour. So we're going to take the mascarpone and I'm going to add a healthy dollop of that. I'm then going to add 1 whole egg. I'm just trying to incorporate this egg so that I can at least get a sense of the consistency. So it's not perfect, but I mean, we've got a sort of decent consistency on that, I think. It looks like it'll vaguely go inside a raviolo without leaking everywhere. That's the hope at least. So unfortunately I don't have a microplane, so I'm just going to use the smaller side of the box grater and grate some parm in. Then just going to rotate it and get some lemon zest involved. Then we're just going to add a sprinkle each of our 4 spices. So we've got some parsley, some nutmeg, some garlic granules, and some pepper flakes. And then once all of our seasonings are in, just going to whisk all that together to combine. Honestly, this looks pretty good to me. I know it's no longer following Claire's recipe, but in terms of consistency, that looks all right. I think maybe slightly on the liquid side, so I'm just going to hope that that doesn't affect anything too severely when we go to assemble. Okay, so it's been about 20 minutes and now I'm going to unwrap my dough and just take a look at what's gone on here. I mean, the issue is I don't really know what it's supposed to look like. I mean, in my extremely uneducated opinion, I think this will work, so let's give it a try. So this is very exciting for me because I actually get to use my pasta maker for the first time. I got one of these pretty much specifically to do more cooking content and it's finally getting its time in the sun. Alright, so now I've divided the dough into 2 halves and then I'm going to try and just form it into a sort of rectangle shape with my hands. So we're starting on the widest setting. Going to wait for that to start feeding and then put my hand underneath so that I can kind of catch it on its way out. Nice and easy. This is actually kind of fun. Okay, now I'm going to do what Claire did, which is to put it into thirds like that and then send it through again on that widest setting. Fell off. The dough is getting smoother, which I guess is a good sign. Again, a lot of guesswork involved here. I'm not sticking to the instructions as closely as I should be. But where's the fun in that, you know? We're exploring. It's an adventure. So I think it's now at the point where I can start to close it up a little bit. So I'm going to just take that up 1 setting and then feed it through again. Then we go No one. Trying to. Oh, this handle is going to be the death of me. So I've put this through quite a few times, and I think that's about thin enough. For the time being, I'm going to put that one aside. I'm going to do the same with the other half. So I'll see you in a second once that's done. Done. I've now got two, what I hope will be equally long and equally thin pieces of pasta. They've slightly stuck together while I left them to rest, which was maybe not the smartest idea on my part. Will I be able to salvage this? We're gonna try. Okay, so there are no mistakes, only lessons. I didn't flour this before I folded it and left it aside, so it's actually really stuck together, and I'm gonna have to roll it again. So give me 2 more minutes. Okay, so we're back. Now thanks to quite a generous sprinkling of flour on the surface and the rollers, we now have what looks more like what we're after. I'm just gonna trim where it narrows towards the edges. Now what I'm going to do is retrieve the ricotta filling, which has been fermenting on my hob. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get one of my teaspoons, just measure out like a teaspoon or so of filling, and deposit it on there somewhere in the middle. And then repeat that. Try and space them out as evenly as I can. Perfect. So unfortunately, unlike Claire, I don't have a spray bottle, but what I do have is a glass of water. So I'm just going to take this and try and wet the dough just a little bit, kind of around these filling mounds where I'm going to be wanting to pinch it once the other layer goes on. Okay, the next step, this is going to be quite a delicate one. I'm going to try and lift this up and then drop it on top of here. Nice and easy. Okay, that went pretty well. So what I'm going to do is just try and use my fingers to push the pasta dough down on top and kind of around where our little balls of mascarpone are. So here I've got kind of the beginnings of the ravioli. I have some filling between 2 layers of pasta. What I'm going to do, unfortunately I don't have one of those crimped edge pizza cutters, so I'm just going to cut in between these into what I think are pretty much ravioli shapes. I'm just trimming off the excess with the pizza cutter so that they're not too enormous. Then just to make sure that these don't come apart, I'm just going to take a fork and just try and crimp the edges down. It looks pretty and it keeps everything in. It's a win-win. So that is one ravioli. The singular form of ravioli is actually raviolo. I only learned that quite recently. Good fact. Also, spaghetti is plural. So it's actually spaghetto if you're just talking about one strand of spaghetti. So there we have 6 ravioli. They actually look pretty good. I'm quite happy with the way they look. We'll have to see how well they hold up during the cooking. That is one thing I'm slightly concerned about. I think one of them might have a hole in it, so we'll see how that goes when we cook. But visually, they passed the eye test, so that's good. So we're back, it's dinner time, and it's time to start cooking. So I've got some water boiling there, lightly salted because the filling of the ravioli is already salted and we don't want to overdo it. Once the pasta goes in, it's only going to take like a minute or 2 to cook because it's fresh pasta. So I'm also going to start preheating this pan and I'm going to add some butter to it so that we can have a kind of like brown butter sauce type thing to finish the pasta in, like Claire did. Okay, so my butter's starting to melt. I'm going to go for it. Here we go, 1 ravioli going in. I'm going to do 3, I think that's like a good dinner portion size. 1, 2, and 3. Is there anything better than the smell of toasting butter? Because I'm really not sure there is. Okay, so it's been about 2 minutes, so I think I'm going to kill the heat on that. I'm going to use a slotted spoon to gently remove and add to the brown butter. Oh, I think we have a tear. Oh no! I think that was me with the spoon rather than the ravioli not being crimped. We'll blame that at least. As you can see, unfortunately we have had a breach. I think it was with the fork as I tried to take it out. And with that, I think we're done. So there we have it. We have mascarpone ravioli. They look really good. Like I said, we have one small breach, but other than that, they've all stayed together. The pasta looks well cooked. The brown butter smells amazing. So let's give it a try. That's really good. The pasta is like just the right side of al dente, like a nice little chew to it. The filling holds up. I don't know what the ricotta one was supposed to taste like because nothing to compare it to, but this is great. It's creamy. You get a little bit of brightness from the lemon and the parsley. And the texture's good. And the brown butter just caps it all off. I want to go and eat the rest of this, so I'm going to wrap the video up here, but this has been fun. I hope you guys have enjoyed, and I hope that you know that it's not that scary to try new recipes. I'm like a very average cook and have made some pretty big mistakes along the way, and the end result's still really tasty. Like I say, we're still looking for content suggestions, so let us know in the comments if you have any ideas for videos that we can make. And until next time, stay awesome, and I'm gonna go eat.